Unit 1, Government Underpinnings. Topic 2, Sovereignty, Authority, and Power. Sovereignty, authority, and power. It's important from the get-go to understand what these terms mean. Power is the ability to get people to do something they otherwise would not do. So a good, solid definition is the ability to direct the behavior of others through coercion, persuasion, or leadership. Now, if you're talking about individual power, if you have a lot of power, then you convince people to do something they otherwise wouldn't do. Like I convinced you over the summer to do 120 words. Well, at least most of y'all, vocabulary words. Through leadership, coercion, and persuasion. Now, if you're talking about on a global scale, a country with a lot of power can make other countries do what they want them to do. Like Donald Trump is expressing that he is going to have the coercion and persuasion and the power or ability to make Mexico pay for a wall on the border. Within a country, our government, our political system, the power is the state institution, the Congress, the president, judicial branch, right? They are able to lead us and to keep us safe through series of laws. Authority is a legal right to exercise power on behalf of a society. So, of course, our state institutions have power and authority. Now, the key to authority right here is the legal right. You can have power without having a legal right to exercise that power. If you were to overthrow a government and you overthrew a legal, constitutionally based government, you don't necessarily have authority to have power over the people quite yet. So the key difference between these two is that authority, you have a legal right. Sovereignty, you have the legal right and power of a state to carry out actions and policies within the state's borders. Now remember, state in this case is not Virginia or North Carolina, but country. Okay, so sovereignty means that legally, by a constitution, free and fair elections, you have been given the power to persuade the people within your borders to follow laws. What is a state? I'm going to move that up so y'all can see that. There you go. It's a little bit better. It's cut off here, so listen to what this is. All right, so what is a state? It is what you call a country or a nation traditionally. So when you've been through school, grades 1 through 11, most of the time people say the country or the nation of the United States. But that's not really how we're going to use nation or country in this class. We're going to call the United States a state, Mexico a state, Nigeria a state. Okay. Now, states. We study how states are formed and the role that historical and cultural factors play into creating a state. So when we start to talk about the United States of America as a state, we're going to talk about how we came up with our Constitution, what cultural factors or what philosophical factors played into us making our Constitution, like the Enlightenment philosophers, Montesquieu's idea of separation of powers, Voltaire's idea of personal freedoms. All of those were factors that played into the creation of the state of the USA. And then y'all will be looking at y'all's 6 states as well. Max Weber, very famous political scientist, gave an early definition of what makes a state. And he claimed that a state was the monopoly on the use of force or the monopoly of violence. So a state was the one that could, how would you say it, had the legitimacy to use physical force in war or to suppress insurrections of the people. So if the people were rioting within the state, the government itself could go in and suppress the people's riots. Or the state has the power to use force if necessary against other states to keep its people safe. States can implement law. Implement law means carry it out. So once a law is written, you have to enforce it. So states can implement, carry out, or enforce laws by force without having to answer to any other higher authority. So basically, that's the idea of you can do what you want and you don't have to answer to anybody else. The United States can go off and bomb Iran right now for a nuclear program, and even though the UN wouldn't sanction it or wouldn't think it was a good idea, the United States has that ability, has that sovereignty, has that power as a state to do that without having to really answer to anybody else. They're going to look bad, but when it comes down to it, states can do what they want. Okay, so good, clean definition of state here. A political system, so remember talking about the political systems with the inputs being the people, the state institutions that write the law and carry out the law, the linkage institutions, all of that stuff. So the state is a political system that has sovereignty or the political power to carry out laws over a population in a defined geographical territory. All right, so here is the state of China. Okay, Beijing, the capital, has sovereignty. The political institutions in Beijing have sovereignty or the power to control all of the people within this territory. And the institutions, of course, we went over this in the political system, but institutions are going to be the executive, your presidents, okay, kings, prime ministers, your legislators, which are your congresses, your judiciaries, which are your courts, and your bureaucracies are all of the departments that help carry out the laws. And in our case, the bureaucracies are part of the executive branch in the United States. They establish and maintain armed forces. Okay, and that was it. Okay, so strong versus weak states. Oh, that was out of order. That's what I thought. Okay, so strong states, they have the ability to pass laws. They can enforce them. They can protect their people. They provide services. The people within strong states generally have a good standard of living and quality of life. Okay. Strong states have capacity. All right, the bell's ringing. Get that double ring just in case you didn't hear it the first time. All right, so capacity is the degree to which a state or government is able to implement or carry out or enforce its policies. So you can have a state, but if nobody is listening to the state's directives or their laws, and that state is not protecting people, then they are not a strong state. So think about it like this. Let's say you have a teacher who has rules. They have the walls of their classroom, so they have sovereignty over their classroom. But once the kids get in, they have no control over their kids. Okay, that's not a strong teacher. Just like that wouldn't be a strong state. A strong teacher would be one who the kids come in, they understand that there is a leader, that is the teacher. That teacher has sovereignty and power within the walls of their classroom, and those students are protected, they're learning, and they respect their teacher because they're getting what they need from that teacher. It's the same idea of strong states. Strong states have the capacity to take care of their people, just like a strong teacher has the capacity to take care of their students. Okay, some, of course, states have greater capacity than others and therefore have greater sovereignty. So if you are a strong state and you are able to take care of your people, then your people are going to be more willing to listen to you, and so on and so forth. Weak states, exact opposite. You can't protect the people, they can't enforce laws, and often they don't provide services, and they're not protecting the good of their people or the public good. Now, failed states, there is no control or order or anarchy. So we all have, going back to the teacher example, we've all had strong teachers that we feel have done what is best for us, and we've learned. We've had teachers that weren't that great, but they weren't the worst. We still got something from them, but we really didn't give them a lot of respect, and we didn't feel like they had a lot of legitimacy. And then you have overall failed teachers, just like you would have failed states when you walk into their room and it's complete anarchy, no control or no order. Now, why do we care about this? Because if you have a lot of weak states or failed states, who's going to have to take care of those people? What's going to happen when those people leave those weak states or failed states to try to find safety and security and services? Well, there's going to be refugees crisis. You can have drug trafficking. You can have pollution. You have war that spills over borders, or you can have terrorism. So a failed state, a good example of a failed state is Somalia. Somalia has a problem with pirates. The government can't keep Somali pirates under control. So whenever the United States companies, shipping companies, want to go past Somalia in order to move product from Asia to the United States, our shipping companies have to worry about being attacked by Somali pirates. In case you've seen Captain Phillips, that affects us here in the United States. So that's why we care. We don't want a bunch of failed states in the world because we don't want to have to take care of their people. Okay. And we're going to finish up with the concept of legitimacy. Okay. Legitimacy is the belief that the government has the right to be in control and exercise authority, which means the people accept the government and say, yeah, I'll let you write laws. I'll let you enforce laws because your laws take care of me, your laws are fair, and your laws protect the public good. Okay. Traditional legitimacy, like think back into the Middle Ages and before. Traditionally, rulers got legitimacy because they were born into power. Right? So they acquired their status through like divine right. So the divine right of kings is that this family would say, God has created us strong enough to have power and sovereignty over you minions, and we are going to rule over you, and you are going to listen to our rules. Okay. Then you have charismatic or personality cult. This means a really dynamic person with a strong personality and maybe a very attractive personality has captured the loyalty of the people, and this is very common after revolutions. Think about Fidel Castro in Cuba. Fidel Castro overthrew the Batista government in the island nation of Cuba. He was able to convince the people through his speeches that he had the best system of economics and government to protect the people in Cuba, and he won them over to the point where the Castro family is still now in power over half a century later. Stalin in Russia, he was able to do this. Vladimir Putin in Russia was able to do this, convince the people that they had the answers, and people believed them because they give wonderful speeches, or they just have a dynamic personality. Rational or legal based. This is what we have in the United States, where you have well-established laws and procedures of getting into power, like the procedures would be through elections. Okay. Common law, or the code law, which is constitutions. So you're there and you have legitimacy because the people recognize that you got into that office through free and fair elections. Okay. And we'll finish up let's see what's up here. Okay. There we go. Other factors that encourage legitimacy: nationalism, pride in your country, shared political culture and ideology, shared religion, like a Muslim state. If you are an Ayatollah of Iran, you are the head Muslim in Iran, you have legitimacy to run that country. And then just being happy.